The most important decision that a woman can ever make in her life is the man that she chooses to be with for the rest of her life. The man that she chooses to sleep with, have children with. And unfortunately, many women end up choosing the wrong man due to trauma, due to a lack of discernment, due to getting caught up in their emotions, and or not seeing blind spots. And one of the most problematic, if not the most problematic man that a woman can get into a relationship with and get married to and have children with is a man who is an addict. A man who is addicted to something or multiple things. And in this video, we are going to talk about what I mean by being an addict, being addicted to something, and why this is so unbelievably problematic for a woman. Much worse than when a man chooses to be in a relationship with a woman who is addicted to something. That's a problem too, but it's so much worse when a woman makes this wrong choice. We'll talk about why, and we'll talk a little bit about what you need to do if you find yourself in such a situation, either early on, which is best case, or worst case, much later on in a relationship or in a marriage. Before we dive in, my name is Zach Rohde. I am here to lead you into creating the relationship of your dreams using your feminine energy and what I call feminine communication to inspire a man into cherishing you. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, make sure you do that below, hit the notification bell, and be sure to like this video because I'm going to make sure it's a really good one for you. So, addiction. There's many definitions going around, and mine might be a little bit different than others, and that's okay. We're going to start with what my definition is. So a man, or a woman, a man is an addict if he is relying on a certain substance or behavior, activity, space to keep negative feelings at bay. Okay? So an example of this would be if a man drinks alcohol. Because if he doesn't drink alcohol, he starts to feel really depressed, or he starts to feel just really sad, starts grieving in some kind of way. So this could be drinking, this could be gambling, this could be shopping, like buying stuff that he doesn't need. This could be video games, it could be porn, it could be a sex addiction in some kind of way. I could just be addicted to women, like being a womanizer, not being able to actually commit into a relationship. That one can be quite problematic. That one deserves its own video. It can be anything where he is not in control of himself. He is feeling these urges and he gives into these urges, and it ends up making his life worse in some kind of way. Now, there can be some addictions that are healthier than others, but there's still going to be a problem. Working can be an addiction, making money can be an addiction, exercising can be an addiction, and even self-improvement can be an addiction. Self-improvement was actually a really big one for me, and it was something that I replaced a much worse addiction, which was video games, with self-improvement. But that can even be a problem because you rely on that thing that you are doing to stay happy. You're not able to just truly self-source that happiness and just be happy as you are. That doesn't mean self-improvement or exercise or anything is bad. Those things are great. It's when you're relying on that to keep negative feelings at bay in some kind of way. I can do self-improvement stuff, I can exercise, I can make money, I can do whatever, and that's great, and I'm motivated to do those things. But if I stop, I don't suddenly start feeling really anxious or start feeling terrible about myself or start feeling really sad in some kind of way. So I'm motivated because those things are enjoyable, not because I am trying to avoid some negative feelings that are underneath. So in my academy program, I work with women, and I've worked with hundreds of women at this point. And unfortunately, one of the things I've seen for a reasonable number of them, certainly not all, but certainly a reasonable number, is they've found themselves in a relationship with a man who is an addict in some kind of way. And that ends up impairing their relationship. And this becomes much more problematic if they're married, if they have children, but even just in any kind of relationship, it starts to cause a lot of problems. Because in a relationship, I'm going to dial back and talk about polarity, what my work is, the way that men and women are supposed to be. So what I teach is men are supposed to be taking care of women in a relationship. A man's job is to lead, and he's supposed to be leading his woman with devotion, with care, cherishing. He's in charge. He's making the decisions. He is the one that's setting the boundaries for the relationship, the expectations for the relationship, and the woman is following those and communicating her feelings, her needs, problems that come up if she's having difficulty following in some kind of way, if her needs are not being met in some kind of way. And of course, the woman still has autonomy. She still has sovereignty because she can leave any relationship. She can choose not to follow the man's lead. But the ideal relationship is one where the man is leading competently and devotionally so that the woman wants to follow. And when she's unable to, she just communicates what's coming up so that the man can adjust in some kind of way so that the woman can continue following. So it's like a dance. Man's leading, woman's following, and it's just an amazing dance when there's no friction where the woman is fighting or the man is apathetic and not leading in the way that he should, or he's leading because he doesn't care about the woman's experience. So this is really important and relevant because if you've got a leader who is addicted to something, well, who's really in control at that point? Because in a healthy relationship, the man is in control. He's in charge. And when I use the word control, I'm not talking about in a subjugating kind of way. I'm not talking about controlling a woman using force or threats or fear or anything like that. I'm talking about control out of love, right? Like if you ever met a really strong, powerful man and you're just like, man, I just want to follow him. I just want to melt into him. And he's just warm and loving, caring. That's the kind of man that I'm talking about. So a man should be in control. He should be in charge. But can a man be in control in the relationship if he's not even in control of his own emotions? He's not in control of his addictions. No, he can't. Who's in control in that relationship? Well, the addiction is in control, at least to a degree. That doesn't mean that the man doesn't have control of anything, but it does mean that the addiction is in charge in at least some cases, and that's dangerous, very dangerous. Well, it can be very dangerous for a woman, or it can be just very painful, or it can be both. So let's talk about an example that would be really dangerous. So say you're in a marriage with a man and he's in charge of the finances, right? In my marriage, I'm fully in charge of the finances. I'm the sole provider and I use our money to take care, I'm using the word our because it is our money even though I'm earning it, to take care of my wife, to make sure we got a roof over our head, to invest in it so that we're well taken care of in the future. Even if something happens to me in the future, even if I die, my wife will be fine, at least financially. And I choose to lead the finances really competently. And I'm really careful about making really wise decisions for us. But now imagine if I was an addict to gambling or to spending money. Like, let's say it's like, I'm just not happy internally. And I need to fill up that empty hole inside of myself with a new boat and a new fishing pole and a new jet ski and a whole bunch of vacations and all this stuff. And my focus is making sure that hole inside of me is filled up. Now, another way this could actually manifest is a slight... People pleasing is essentially an addiction too, if you really think about it. So a man who is addicted to people pleasing, right? He's trying to get your approval. So he's buying all these things for you to fill that empty hole and to avoid you abandoning him in some kind of way. Or imagine he's got a gambling addiction, right? And I got some extra money, or I don't even have money. I'm going to just put it on credit cards and I'm going to go to the casino. This time I'm really going to win big. But he's not a very good gambler. So he ends up losing. Sometimes he wins, but overall he's losing money because he is addicted and he's not in control of himself and he can't stop. So what you experience in the long run is, we're in a whole bunch of credit card debt and we can't pay our bills. And my man is still buying things or is still gambling. And he says, this time is going to be different. And it isn't different. You really want to trust him. You want to believe in him. But what happens is you end up getting hurt. And of course, your finances are going to be tied to him if this is in marriage. In a relationship, even if you're not living together, that's still a problem. But man, when you're married, and especially if you have children, even worse, that becomes a huge problem. And even more so if you're financially dependent on him, right? So imagine if I was doing all of that. My wife is 100% financially dependent on me. She's taking care of her daughter and is a stay-at-home wife. And I'm a man who's not in control of myself because I'm an addict. Well, what's going to happen? She's going to get really screwed over. Now, one of the things that I teach women, a big part of what I teach, is how a woman needs to do her own work, her own femininity work, using feminine communication, letting go of control, opening up, being vulnerable, all really great stuff. And if you are in a situation where you're with a serious addict, like it's a serious addiction that he's really struggling with, I'm not necessarily saying you need to end this relationship. If it's not a marriage, I'm going to be much more inclined to say just find someone better, but it still kind of depends a little bit. If it's a marriage, well, you really want to do everything that you can first. I'm a supporter of divorce in extreme circumstances when you've truly done everything that you have, that you can do, though many women end up bailing. It's not that they end up bailing too early. Like I know a lot of women who really struggle and stick with it for a long time, but they do the wrong things. They do things that aren't going to actually work. The only thing that is going to work, that as far as your side of things, to inspire a man out of his addiction, is to be more feminine, use feminine communication. And that also means, just so you understand, that also means not enabling. That means not submitting when it's dangerous, right? Because that's actually compliance. That's not submission. It's not feminine. It's a form of fawning, right? So like, let's say you're making an income and you got a gambling addict over here. And if he says like, hey, just give me more of your money, we're going to make this work. This time I can feel it, baby. And you follow that leadership, you're actually dishonoring your heart. You know deep down that's not the right decision, but you do it anyway. That's not feminine, right? So you need to, it's not that you might actually, I recently did a video on why women shouldn't set boundaries, but there might actually be a situation where you're going to need to set a boundary if a man is not able to get control of himself in this kind of way. But certainly you need to use feminine communication and not enable. So it's like you're respecting him as a man, even though he is not being respectable. No addict is being respectable in the way that he needs to be. But you're still treating him with that respect without enabling him. And then you see what happens. Is he going to step up at that point and become the devotional man that you need? Definitely possible, but definitely not guaranteed. And it's never guaranteed, right? Like I will never, when I do enrollment calls, discovery calls with women who are interested in joining our academy program, one of the things I'll always say when they're in a relationship, I cannot guarantee that this is going to turn things around. Anyone who guarantees that is a liar, because we can't control another person. We can only maximize the odds of being able to change things. And certainly what I teach absolutely maximizes the odds in every way possible. There's nothing out there that can give a woman a better chance. But at the end of the day, some men are not going to change. If a man is addicted to something, seriously addicted, he's going to be less likely to be the devotional man that you need than a woman who is in a relationship with a non-addict. Absolutely. But even with a non-addict, it's not a guarantee. It's just less likely with an addict. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible. And I'll use an example of what I'm talking about. So in my marriage, like this is the best example I got, and it's not a good one because I'm not really addicted to anything. I used to be very addicted earlier in my life, like very heavily addicted to video games. That was the main thing, and then self-improvement, and then nothing, because I just learned how to move inward, feel all of my feelings, stop running away from anything, any negative feelings in any kind of way. I'm not really addicted to anything anymore. But to be fully transparent, if there is one thing that like I can notice some addictive tendencies, it's when I get really stressed. I work very hard in my business, serving women and also serving men, helping them make these shifts, learning how to polarize themselves, practicing their communication, marketing, doing YouTube videos, all of this stuff. Sometimes I get really stressed. Sometimes I push myself too hard. Sometimes I get burnt out. And when I do have a tendency to becoming very passive and just absorbing total garbage, like doom scrolling on my phone and just completely wasting time. It's pathetic, right? Like, and I make no excuses for it. It's a small weakness that I notice in myself, but it's relatively small. I'm able to stop myself when I choose to, and part of what makes that easier is I've got a beautiful sweetheart daughter who also drives me crazy half the time, and respectful wife, right, who trusts me and follows my leadership. Now, let's say that this tiny little addictive tendency somehow became a full-blown addiction, which it can't, because there's nothing that I'm really avoiding with my internal state. But say it did. If she was really nagging and judging, leading, trying to take control, trying to help me with my addiction, trying to support me through it, stepping into the mothering role in some kind of way, or just being a doormat and enabling it and not sharing what's coming up for her, I would be much less inspired to deal with my addiction. Now, a man should ideally be inspired to deal with his addiction regardless of how a woman's showing up, right? But men are imperfect. And absolutely, a woman can sometimes be inspiring enough to, we'll say, like, push a man over the fence, where it's like he's struggling on his own. He's not quite strong enough on his own, but he's so inspired by his woman. She's just so soft and vulnerable and respectful and in her self-worth. And she's also willing to leave, right? He can also feel her self-worth so much. She's willing to leave if I don't get control of myself. And she's not threatening or anything like that. She's not setting ultimatums. All of that's masculine. But the man can feel it. If I would be able to feel that in my wife. I can feel in my wife that if I drop the ball too much, she would leave me. When a man can feel that, it inspires him to be the best that he is capable of being. And oftentimes that will mean, it's like, I got to get my act together. I got to figure out this addiction. I got to work through this. And then it comes down to a matter of, is he going to figure out the right tools to do that? Is he going to get the right support to do that? Is he going to learn? And it'll be another video that I do about learning how to move inward and feel all of those feelings that the man is running away from in the first place. It's the best possible chance that you have to deal with a man who is an addict. And let's be fair. We're going to be fair to men for a moment, and also just talk about people in general. Almost every single person in the world today is addicted to something. Okay? And we got to be honest about that. Everybody, almost everybody, is carrying a lot of deep trauma. They've not been raised properly. They've not been loved properly. They haven't been given proper role models. They haven't been given the tools to overcome this trauma and overcome the issues that they're dealing with. And so we got a lot of addicts. You'll be very lucky as a woman to find a man who is addicted to nothing. Not porn, not gambling, not spending, not working, not success, not video games, not television, not watching sports on television or that kind of thing, not anything. Almost all men have their vice. And the more important question to ask isn't whether a man is addicted to something, it's how addicted is he and what is the addiction? If a man is addicted to self-improvement, and it's not like extreme where it's really interfering with his relationship, well, that's not too big a deal. If a man is extremely addicted to alcohol and he's not able to function in his life and take care of you, well, that's a huge deal, right? There's a massive spectrum. Also, what matters is how much a man is aware that it's an issue and how much he's actually trying to work through it. Let's say a man is addicted to porn. Well, that's a big problem. It's a much bigger problem in a relationship. But what if he's really aware of it? What if he's not making excuses for it? What if he's honest about it? What if he tells you when he falls off the wagon, goes on the wagon? What if he's honest about that? What if he's making shifts towards being better? What if he's trying to do the inner work to shift that? Well, that's not a very big deal. But if a man is addicted, we'll use porn as an example again, and he's like, this isn't a problem. All men watch porn. There's nothing wrong with watching porn for 3 hours a day, or whatever the amount of time is. This is normal. Stop nagging me. Stop making a big deal about this. And he's completely defensive about it, unwilling to look at himself, unable to see how it's negatively affecting the relationship. Well, that's a much bigger problem, isn't it? So if you're in a relationship already, hopefully you're aware of what your man is addicted to, has strong addictive tendencies towards. Oh, exercise is another one. I don't know if I mentioned that one yet at all. Exercise can absolutely be an addiction. So you'll probably have an idea. And you'll have an idea of how the addiction is impairing things in some kind of way. And you can use feminine communication to share what's coming up for you. And if it's not a really strong addiction and you have some self-awareness, you'll probably be able to get through to him, and you'll probably be motivated to want to do something about it. If you don't use feminine communication, I can pretty much guarantee you that nothing's going to shift. Here's the other problem with not using feminine communication and not being feminine with your man. Addictions are generally caused to push negative feelings at bay, right? Sometimes it's anxiety, but also like a lot of pain, depression, that kind of thing. And if a man is not getting the respect that he needs and deserves in a relationship, and I'm using the word deserves as like every man deserves respect. Even if they're not respectable, they still do deserve that, even if they're not showing up in that way. There's another way I can use the term where they definitely don't deserve it, but in this context, I'm saying like, yeah, a man deserves this. Say he's not getting it. His needs aren't unmet. He already has unprocessed trauma to deal with, which is compelling him into the addiction. And now on top of it, he's really unhappy in the relationship because he's not getting any respect. His needs aren't getting met. He doesn't know how to show up for you as the man that you need him to be, that he needs to be for himself. And now he's going to be much more likely to fall deeper into the addiction because he feels even worse. You see how that works? And that's why if you're in a relationship and you're choosing to play it out and see where things go despite whatever this addiction is, it's so important to do your femininity work. That's all you can do. And you're not responsible for his addiction. You're not responsible for his poor choices. But you are responsible for the co-creation that's happening. You're both responsible for that. You're responsible for your own behaviors, how you're showing up, which does have an influence on how a man shows up and his level of inspiration. If you are single and you're looking for a man, it becomes very important to have discernment, to look out for red flags, to really assume, and I use the word assume in a positive way, assume that a man does have an addiction to something. You just don't know what it is and you don't know how extreme it is. And you've got to use feminine communication to find out what that addiction is. And by the way, just like asking permission, like, may I know, because this is part of feminine communication, may I know if you're addicted to anything? Well, unfortunately, a lot of men are not going to have the self-awareness to realize that they are an addict, to admit that to themselves or to somebody else, especially if they really like you. And a much better approach is really to get vulnerable and share what's coming up for you. Share your feelings of the unknown. Anxiety being a really big one. Because you are going to feel a lot of anxiety or you should feel, if you're aware, especially after this video, you should feel a lot of anxiety going into a relationship with a man where you don't know him well enough to know if he is addicted to something or what that is or how strong that is. And just a relationship, I mean, well, at least you can break up, but much worse if you're choosing to have children with a man or get married to a man, right? You really need to know this. So you need to learn how to communicate this. And then you also, and this will be for another video, you need to be able to flow away from a man when you know that he's not right for you. And that includes women who are in a relationship already, right? You just stick it out. Why do you stick it out? Because you're an addict. You're an addict to the relationship. You're addicted to him. You're addicted to how he makes you feel. You might be addicted to the dynamic of taking care of him, of trying to support him when he doesn't have his life together because he's an addict. And so you're enabling it in that way too. So you really got to look at yourself and see, yeah, there's so much that I am doing to co-create this situation. In our academy program, a big part of what we do for women is help you shift out of low self-worth patterns, right? And if you are getting into a relationship because your self-worth is coming through what you can do for a man, it's like I can support a man, I can really care for him, I can take care of him in these kind of ways, I'm really helpful, I give really good advice, I'm good at holding space for a man and hearing about his problems and all that kind of stuff. We get some clients who have those issues. And guess what? When you have those issues, you're not in your self-worth. And you're actually operating through masculine energy. You're more in the giving role, which is the man's role, instead of in the receiving role. Your role is to be taken care of in a relationship. Your role is to be able to fully open to a man's care, to a man's love, to a man's leadership, to a man's boundaries, to a man's direction, to a man's standards, to a man's planning, to a man's affection, and be able to fully receive it. And also to communicate what's coming up for you if you're not receiving what you need, and doing that in a feminine way. And if you do not know how to do those things, if you're more stuck in the giving role because of low self-worth, or you're stuck in avoidance tendencies because of low self-worth, well, guess what? You're probably, or at least there's a much more likely chance that you're going to attract an addict. So we're going to talk for a moment before I wrap things up about how you are co-creating this through your own addictive tendencies. But before we do, if you are interested in working with us, if you would like support on shifting your self-worth, learning how to love yourself more, learning how to inspire a man into taking care of you, even if he is an addict, we will do our best. Though again, it's no guarantee. I would love to find out if you are right for our academy program to help you make these shifts with our support. And if you are interested in that, go below this video, open up the description, click on relationshipyourdreams.com, watch this 10-minute video that's on that page, and then book a call with me. It's a free discovery call. We'll talk about what's going on in your love life. We'll talk about why you're stuck, what the problems are, what you're not getting, how you are co-creating it. That's the most important part. How you are co-creating this dynamic that you don't want, whether you're single or in a relationship. If you're single, we'll talk about past relationships. And we'll find out together if the academy is right for you. And I'll also give you some feedback about what you need to do immediately to start shifting this. And if it turns out that the academy is right for you, we'll talk all about it. And you can decide whether you'd like to step into it and get this support, which just makes these shifts so much easier. The shifts that we are talking about, it's like most men and women never really make them, or they don't go very far into making them because it's so hard, because it's so scary. It's scary because these are control patterns that you've been holding on to your whole life to stay safe. So for example, the one that I mentioned before, avoiding sharing what's coming up for you. Do you do that? Like, are you wearing your heart on your sleeve when you're in a relationship with a man? It's like fully open, you share everything, you do it vulnerably. No guards, no walls. You don't make excuses to share something. You don't say, I'll share this next time, or this isn't a big deal, or I don't want to bother him. Most women avoid, almost all, like that's the most common problem in our academy that we see with women, is they avoid sharing their feelings. When you do that, you're not in your self-worth. And then one of the biggest, might be the second biggest or third biggest, is the mothering pattern, right? Like you're in the giving role, you're in the doing role. You're trying to be helpful, you're trying to be supportive. Well, again, you're doing that to stay safe because in childhood, you had to be given love, to not be abandoned, to not be judged. Same with avoiding sharing your feelings, right? You avoid because you were taught that it's not fully safe to share your feelings. And so when you have these patterns, and especially when these patterns are like a good match for a man who is addicted to something, you will tend to attract that kind of man into your life. Often multiple men like that into your life, one after the other. And so to shift this, to shift what you are experiencing, you have to shift yourself. You have to do the very hard work of shifting yourself. And that's so difficult because it's so scary to move through those patterns that have kept you safe your entire life. It can feel like jumping off a cliff. That's why it's so hard to do it by yourself. That's why it's so much easier with support. But even with support, it is really challenging. And you have to do it on faith. You don't know what is actually going to happen. Your job, whether you choose to ever work with me in my academy program or just continue to learn for free in whatever capacity, is your job is to shift fully into your self-worth as a woman, your feminine self-worth. That means looking at all of your patterns, all the ways that you are pushing away a man or unmotivating him in a dynamic, killing his motivation to take care of you. And you need to shift them, because all of those patterns are stemming from low self-worth, from it's a limiting belief that you have, not realizing how worthy you are of being taken care of just by being you. So these patterns that you are in, it's important to understand, these are patterns that are not you. These are patterns that you've learned to stay safe, to protect yourself, and that's important, right? You got to love that part of you too. But then you got to recognize what's underneath that. What's underneath that is who you really are. This tender, sensitive, beautiful, innocent, lovely, soft woman that you're trying to protect. And the message that I have for you is that you don't need those patterns anymore to protect that self, that little girl in you. You just need a better way, a much more feminine way, where you're fully open and vulnerable all the time, and you're willing to flow away if a man's not willing to take care of you. And it's as simple as that. You don't need to beg. You don't need to, reciprocate. Like, a man gives to you, like you keep giving so that a man will give to you. No, you don't need to do that. Your job is to receive. It doesn't mean you don't do anything for a man, but it means you do it in a feminine way where you're following his leadership, and only with things that are actually honoring your heart, that fill you up. Your job is to be fully in your self-worth all the time and flow away if a man is not able to take care of you, if he takes advantage of you, if he hurts you, if he's not competent at taking care of you because of his addiction, because he's not in control of himself. And so many women who lack self-worth, they are not, I'm not going to say like they're not strong enough, because every woman is strong enough to flow away from that kind of man. It's just that you choose not to operate through that strength. You choose to operate through your low self-worth patterns. And that's the addiction for you. It's that you stay addicted to a man who is not good for you, who's not able to properly take care of you because of the feelings that he gives you. And some of those feelings can still be good, and then a lot of those feelings are not good. But it's the attachment. It's the attachment to him. And if you're in that situation, you have to break that attachment, and that's how you shift into your self-worth. And what's going to happen when you do that? Well, the same thing that happens whenever you shift any of your patterns. Typically, negative feelings will come up, right? You'll feel shame, maybe guilt, maybe sadness, fear, neediness, and then you have an opportunity to fully feel those feelings in your body. Because that's the unprocessed trauma that needs to be felt. That's how you heal. That's how you eventually experience a man who wants to fully take care of you and cherish you. Once again, if you would like to get our support in our academy, if you'd like to learn more, if you'd like to do a free call with me to find out if you're right for the program, open up the description, relationshipyourdreams.com, watch the video, book the call. I'll see you there and we'll have a great time. If you're not ready for it, that's okay. Keep watching these videos. I still want to help you. I still want you to make these shifts. And these videos can be so helpful for you to do that. You just keep watching, keep implementing what you learn. Don't give up on yourself. That's it for this one. I'll see you for the next video.